So we're looking forward to spending this time and having this conversation. So really the purpose of this, and I'll go through and I guess I identify a few people. So joining us from the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission, we've got Becky Losing. Becky is a project leader on this and has her own pretty amazing background, and I'm sure she'll talk about that as we have this conversation. Caitlin Jones is on there. She is the communications director at the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission and a good friend. Krista Harmon is also with the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission, and she has done her own work in advocacy and recovery and has her own organization and does a lot of awareness walks and has been an amazing resource in the region. Then we got Mark Perkins, who is also on the project from the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission. He's been involved with this one and with another program called HRSA, as is Samantha Madison. Samantha is the project lead for the HRSA grant that focuses on opioids with adults in a 4-county region. Then we've got Sheriff Lehman, and Sheriff Lehman he's got some very excellent insights that he can talk about how open-minded and forward-thinking he and his team are as it relates to the opioid epidemic and working with Narcan and some of the things that they're doing. Then we also have Jane. She's sitting here with me. She is the actual, well, Jane, go ahead and say hi really fast.
Hi, I'm Jane Johansson, and I'm the project coordinator for the Opioid Affected Youth Initiative at the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission. And just thank you all for coming, and thanks, Sean, for coordinating this.
Awesome. And so then I have some amazing students on here. I've got Lauren Weber. Let's see, Lauren is it? So Lauren, do you want to say just a few words about yourself?
I'm Lauren. I'm 18. I'm a senior, and I'm going into the medical field.
Awesome. And then also in the seat with me is Gabriel. So Gabriel, if you can give everybody a wave. You want to say anything, Gabriel?
I'm going to say my name's Gabriel. I am in 11th grade. I'm not quite sure where I want to go in college yet, but definitely going college level.
Awesome. And then joining us online, it looks like we've got Melena Cox. Melena, can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Awesome. You want to give everyone your, there you are. So anything that you'd like to say, Melena?
Now I'm 16. I am a junior, and I also want to go into the medical field.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
And then also on there is Anna Tackenhorst. Anna, you want to give everybody a wave and say hello?
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm in 11th grade, and I want to go into marine biology.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. And then one more, it looks like Ryan, I'm sorry I missed you. We got Ryan Stores with the Sullivan Independent News, a good friend and does a great job with covering media. So Ryan, we appreciate you joining in today as well. So jumping right in, basically this project is through the Department of Justice, and it's a competitive grant that was awarded to this region. This project is a kind of a sub-award, sub-project on a larger project to serve the 8 counties in the Merrimack region as it relates to the opioid affected youth impact. And so when we came up with this idea, we decided, that stigma is a big issue. And one of the things that in my work that I do with those in recovery is the barriers that society has put in place on individuals that are trying to find their way back or have found their way back. And we realized that stigma has become one of the biggest challenges that individuals face, which led Jane and I to this topic of having, conversations throughout the region to basically destigmatize it. And through those conversations, we came up with the idea of this is a project about youth. And so what if instead of adults talking and youth listening, what if we flipped that upside down and we said, what does this mean from a youth perspective? So I've been blessed to be able to have, hey, we got Chief Shelton and Captain Yates. You're very welcome. Thanks for, oh, yeah, no problem. So sorry, we had a few others that just came in to join us. So But basically, I'm going to pause here because I asked the students, and Anna, Gabriel, Lauren, Milena, to your own level of comfort. But basically, I said, if I said, what does the opioid epidemic mean to you? That was basically the homework. I said, I'm going to ask you that question on the day that we do this. And we just want to hear from you about what it means. And feel free. I know, Lauren, you shared about, what it meant to you, particularly you had the experience at Subway with an overdose. So maybe we'll start there. Does that sound good?
I'm Lauren once again, but I've been very blessed to not have been exposed very much around the epidemic. However, it is a real thing, and I believe that very, very much. My very first encounter, and probably one of the only encounters I've ever had, was when I worked at Subway. I was working a normal shift like I usually was. I was about 16, so this was about 2 years ago. And it was me, my friend Matt, and one other lady, Becky, who was working. And we had a lady come in and she tried to use the bathroom. And it's very frequent that that happens because we're the only bathroom in the entire complex. And she goes, do you have a key for your bathroom? And I said, no, ma'am. Typically, if it's locked, that means someone's in there. And someone was sitting in the lobby and said, well, that guy's been in there for a long time. So we had to unlock the door, found him unconscious, had to call 911, which was very scary because I've only had to do that twice. The other time I had to talk to the fire department. So talking to the fire department compared to EMTs and stuff is very, very scary. And in a situation like that, I had never been in before, but I was able to stay calm, which was very good. And it was just very sad because in that moment, you just see someone who's doesn't want to be there, and opioids or drugs in general is their only way of getting out. And it was just very sad to see someone sitting there just lifeless. And it was just a very surreal thing to have to witness that. So the EMTs came and I think they did Narcan on man, and they ended up taking him to Missouri Baptist. But in that instance, there's nothing that prepares you for that. So I was on the phone not only with EMTs but my boss, the owners, my manager. And the one thing that I was constantly told, especially by my managers, is you have to stay working. And you think, okay, I don't really know how to keep working when there's, someone overdosed right there and you've got the EMTs asking us all these questions. But that's the one thing they tell you to do is just keep working, act as though it's not there. And that is a very scary thing because I had never really seen anybody wheeled out on a gurney from an overdose before. And I can very easily say I've been blessed with that, but that's been my main thing. And it was just a very scary and surreal thing to see because it put a lot of perspective into everything.
So Lauren, my question is well, first let me say thanks because I can tell that was something, but how did it change you? I can tell instantly there was a change inside of you. So how did the experience change you to the good or to the bad?
It really kind of pushed me into what I want to do because it's not so much that I want to be an EMT, but I want to be the doctor that helps people recover from drug addictions or alcohol addictions or just mental health in general. So that is, I think, is one of the biggest things that really pushed me into the field that I want to go into. And it's just kind of a weird thing to think about that that's what really pushed me into what I wanted to do.
So, and to your own level of comfort answering this, but somebody had to go over to the door and open the door.
It was me.
So, walk us through that because I know you had.
That was scary. So we had to unlock the door, and that was probably the scariest part because our key at first was not working. So we had to get a I think it was either one of the knives or we had to get like a card to unlock the door. And as soon as I walked in, because it had to be me and Becky, because she didn't want it to just be me, and she didn't want it to just be her because something could have been said had the man not been unconscious. And it was just like, as soon as we opened the door, because it was all three of us standing there, Matt is the one who got the door unlocked. He opened it, and then it was just a matter of seeing the guy hunched over, and it was like the most like surreal thing, because I was on the phone at that point with EMTs. Matt was on the phone with our boss, and it was like, okay, we have to convey what all's going on. And the EMTs were like, does he have a pulse? And I didn't know how to calculate that at the time, and Becky did. So she was able to actually get a pulse on the guy. It was very, very faint, but he had one. And it was just like one of those things, because Matt was in such a state of shock that he didn't really understand what was going on. So every time he would get the door open, he would forget to unlock the door. So we'd have to go and unlock the door 3 or 4 more times before I was like, Matt, all right, just go to the front, go to the front. Because in situations like that, I believe like your fight or flight really kind of kicks in, and it shows how you are as a person in like emergencies. Like Matt didn't know what to do. I didn't really know what to do. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I did. I didn't. But I did know that like keeping the door was unlocked was like the biggest thing we needed. But at the same time, we had to like really kind of shoo people away from the store and say, all right, you guys can't really come in right now. Like this is what we're doing. You can't really like state what all is going on because of confidentiality. But like opening the door for the first time and just seeing him hunched over was like just so like scary, and I can see it vividly in my head.
You're awesome. Thanks for sharing. I mean, you're
Thank
exactly
you.
right. And I know we've got some first, the sheriffs on here. We've got the Cuba Police Department here in person, and I here in a little bit. This is what they're dealing with all day, every day, of walking into these situations. So, from a person's perspective, Lauren, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for everything. Like, I appreciate that. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So, looking at Anna. Anna, is there, this is something that you're very passionate about this. And so to your own level of comfort, but as much as you would like to share, is as much as everybody would like to listen.
So, like, how I feel about opioids, I mean, I'm kind of shy, so I'm sorry about
That's
that,
okay.
but
Here's what when we first started, you said something to, well, all of you, Gabriel and Melena and Lauren and yourself. You said, if we can do this to just change one life, to save one life, this is why I want to do this. And there's a specific reason, because you know opioids, and one of the things that we're trying to help people to understand is that I don't think people have a large understanding of how one becomes an addict, and that it's and we got a bell ringing here for a second, so that's the bells now. So one of the things that we're trying to help people understand is that that these are good people, and sometimes maybe it was a surgery, maybe it was a back injury, maybe it was a knee injury, maybe it was something that then something that was very innocent led somebody down a road, down a path that turned out to be very painful. So Anna, go ahead, and if you don't mind, just kind of a few of her thoughts of what motivates you to want to share about this.
So growing up, my mom kind of had like a little pill addiction, and she would always come home and she would be high off of some pill, and she was a good woman, she really was, but like she just could not stop taking the pills because she didn't want to feel anything. And I'd pick them up off the ground because every day I would pick it up and I'd be like, "What's this, Mom?" And she would take it away, and it was just hard to watch her falling apart in front of me. And then I got taken away, and I haven't really been in contact with her. But now she's gone because she betrayed, and it's just hard to watch like a person that was a good person before fall apart just because of one little thing, one mistake, and it was all over for her. And I did abuse pills for a little bit because I was really hurt inside. And if you know me, like, you know I'm a good person. I'm a really happy person. You wouldn't look at me and think I would have done that. You wouldn't have looked at me and thought that at all, because I'm a really good person. But sometimes people just get stuck in those positions where that's like their only way out. And it's not fun. It's really not. Like, I remember the police came to my house one day because I was overdosing, and they asked me what I was doing, and I didn't really know what I was doing because I was so out of it, and I was having anxiety, and I thought I was okay on the inside, and I thought maybe I should take more, but I didn't, because if I would have, I probably would have died, and they're really not a joke. Like, if I were to describe how they feel, I would say that it's stressful to take them, and I would again, out of complete honesty, I would never do it again because I can't put myself under that. And whenever I grow up and I know that I'm going to have a family one day, I'm not going to put my family under that pressure. And it's just a lot of pressure for my family right now, like going through all the things, planning funerals and all that stuff. And it's just, I think people see it as a way out, but in all reality, all you really need, like all I really needed, was like a support. So I joined cross country, and that's when I first really started like getting support, and I started running, and it felt really good because they were all really supportive, and I didn't even think about anything. I didn't think about overdosing or anything. I feel like the connection is paused.
You're doing A-okay. We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Well, like,
That's how you and I became running buddies.
Yeah. So, yeah, I joined cross country, and it really helped. And I don't do cross country now because I'm a bit self-conscious, but now I know that like there's good people out there, and you're not alone no matter what you do. And someone's always going to be there for you. Like, if I were to look at someone that was on opioids and I was supposed to tell them something that would change their life and change their mind, I would probably bring up the story about my mom, and I would tell them, look, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Like, it's really not that hard. We're going to get through it together. You don't need to take a pill to be happy. You just need someone to be here for you. And that's really all you need.
Amen. Can you give me a big smile? There. No, well, thank you for this. And Gabriel and Milena, is there any comments that you want to interject yet? So, well, I want to say thanks to Lauren and thanks to Anna. You guys, you motivate me, you inspire me, and you give me hope. And that's kind of what I want to segue into this next part of this conversation is, I asked each of the students, like, hey, what do we want? And this is kind of a larger, even to the whole group is, we're here, we're talking about this. What kind of call to action do we want to have to our school, to our community? What do we want to, help people to understand that this is an okay thing to talk about, and that we don't need to feel shame, we don't need to feel guilt, that we to what you said exactly, Anna, is that we want people to know that there is love, that there is support, and that we can help. So, Lauren, I know you had some thoughts on this. So, is there anything? I'm gonna kind of put our law enforcement people on here in a second and ask them a couple of questions. But on that note, right there, is there anything at this point in the conversation that you want to share?
I mean, I think I'm good. the thing that I've been telling you since the beginning when you've asked if this are still the thoughts that go through my mind. Like, I still want to, like, I don't want this to be just like an 8-county thing right here in central Missouri. I want this to be something that, like, not necessarily that we have to travel across the country, but I think it should be something like across the state that, like, schools get shown, like, the whole them showing them this, and then, like, have them bring up questions and then do Zoom, like, with them so they can get their questions answered. That's just kind of, like, always been my thought with it.
Sheriff Lehman, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Sheriff, is there any thoughts that you want to interject from a county perspective and from a law enforcement? I got Chief Shelton and Robbie Yates here as well. I'm going to ask them here in a second, but you know, you and I have been blessed to be able to work together on some projects. You have been a very forward-thinking sheriff in terms of your approach to opioid misuse. You've done some programming down in the jail. What thoughts, if you don't mind me putting on the spots, would you interject into the conversation?
Yeah, so first off, let me commend each of you that have spoken today, because I know it took a lot of guts, and it's extremely intimidating to get on here and speak from the heart, and speak as openly as you have. So I commend you for that. And Anna, your story or your experience there was touching to me. I can't personally relate what that feels like on a personal level, but I can tell you what that feels like on a professional level, because we do see it daily. Well, I shouldn't say daily, but we see it monthly, and it has a pretty negative effect on us, just as it does on you all. So I don't want you to think that we're walking robots. And, you know, Lauren, you mentioned something too that I didn't really stop and think about too much until you had said it. And you said whenever you were on the phone with 911, it was scary and intimidating to talk to the dispatchers. And I never really thought of that before, because we just do it so routinely that it didn't seem like that would be something that would be that big of a deal to me, but it is to you. So maybe that's something that we can convey and get out there as well. But going forward, I think, you know, we have to reach you all first, because that's where it starts. It starts with your age group. It really does, because I know we have a pill addiction problem in our high schools. There's no question about it, and we know that. But the question is how do we combat that? I know we've had the DARE program in the past, and I know you've got Chief Shelton on here, that he's a DARE instructor and he can comment on DARE. Outside of that, there's not too many programs inside of our schools right now that we have going forward. So I wish I could sit here and tell you that I had a canned answer that would fix or even help what's going on. But Lauren, you're spot on. These Zoom meetings are extremely beneficial. I'm sitting over here. If it looks like I'm not paying attention, I am. I'm just taking copious notes. So I'm taking some notes, you know, and I think the takeaway for me is we need our officers and our deputies to be more empathetic. We need them to be more understanding of what's going on. You know, I get the question all the time, Narcan, Narcan, Narcan. Why do you use it? Well, the bottom line is we don't get to decide who lives and dies. And that's, I mean, we try to save everyone, and that is our job, and that's what we do. And is Narcan working? Yes, it is saving lives. It's saving a lot of lives. We see overdoses weekly in our jail, and I will tell you the withdrawals are terrible. They last 3 to 5 days, depending upon the type of drug that's being used, and they are vicious and they're violent. And you mentioned mental health, Lauren, and I think that is a growing problem. And a lot of our mental health issues that we deal with in the jail and in the public is drug-induced psychosis. It's from the drugs themselves that drive these mental health issues. So I think just having these open and honest discussions is going to be widely and hugely beneficial.
Awesome, Sheriff. Thank you. I appreciate your comments very much. I'm going to spin my computer over and put Chief Shelton on the spot here. So I'm going to move this. So bear with me just for a second. So there's Chief right.
Everybody's gone.
There we go.
Hello, sir.
So, Chief, from a Cuba perspective, from a municipality, can you anything that you would share about what your team and yourself, and just kind of the experience of opioids in Cuba, kind of to like I said, not necessarily a negative side, but some of the things that that you all do to try and combat it within our community, and it's something your officers have had to respond to calls.
Right. It basically duplicating like what Sheriff Lehman has said. I mean, we're finding it constantly. We're seeing it, fighting it with Narcan. The issue I feel that we have with young adults and the opiates is a learned behavior, and they're seeing it from people that have gotten addicted to the opiates. And I think the problem with that isn't because these people really want to be druggies. That's not the issue. From what I've learned over the years and things, it's a medical issue, and self-medicating is easier than getting medical attention. It's cheaper and easier. They don't have to go to the doctor. They don't have to go anywhere. They can get it on the streets, and that's where the problem lies, is the cost of getting help. And to try to find the help at a cost some people can afford, it's not there. There's no health insurance, no jobs, no money.
No recovery center.
It's a downward spiral. So it's like Lehman was saying, there's not a whole lot in the schools to teach that aspect of it to our young adults. Listen, it's not, if you don't need to medicate, don't listen to the people that give you this medication or whatever to get addicted to these drugs. Our DARE program, I know my later years of teaching the DARE program has changed drastically on how much we teach these kids. The DARE program I was teaching, we talked about the marijuana, the methamphetamines, and all the other drugs and pills and hallucinogens. And now the DARE program teaches about just, hey, let's make good choices. Well, it depends on that person and his environment. What is a good choice? I mean, it's trying to get them to recognize what is a good choice. And I think we have there's part of the generation, there's a lack of parental skills to teach their own kids, good choices. What is a good choice? So,
thank you.
That's where I feel a lot of it is where we have the issue, I think.
Excellent. Is there anybody that you can hear me that wants to interject any thoughts or comments on what either Sheriff Lehman or Chief Shelton have just made comment on? What's that? Gabriel, is there, not to put you on the spot, but what thoughts do you have right now? This project interested you for for a reason. So any thoughts about what you think about why it's important or what we can do differently to help? I'd love to hear any thoughts that you've got.
So my opinion on this whole project, mainly I do want to make a big impact on other people's lives. My opinion, if we can save someone's life, maybe it will save others. So me personally, I have not experienced opioids, but my uncle, which is my mom's brother, he was really, really bad. He was addicted to some sort of drug. So I watched him lose his wife. He lost his kids. Now I'm not really sure where he's living because he might have lost his house by now. So just pretty much watching someone go through that, it just breaks me. So, yeah.
So in your mind, what can we do differently? And then I know that's Gabriel gets the first tough question. I said, in your mind, what can we do differently? Like what can we as a school, as a community, as individuals, is there anything that you said, man, if people just did this, I think that would help? And it can be anything. It can be whether we be more open to talking about it, whether we be more forgiving, whether we have to say, hey, we need to be more brutal, like kind of like what Chief Shelton was saying, we need to be more brutally honest in our conversations. Like, what thoughts do you have about, okay, as we look to make a positive impact in the city of Cuba and in the county of Crawford, like, what can we do? And maybe I know that's a very tough question, but I'd love to hear any thoughts that you have, that you might have, that Melina might have, as we kind of start to shift our conversation of, we know it's a problem. Now, what can we do to maybe sit there and say, let's try and make a positive impact?
So for this project, what I'm pretty much thinking would be best is like if Anna shared her story, Lauren, if she shared her story, and we could get other people to maybe tie in their stories with their opinions on it too. And we pretty much make it into a YouTube video or something like that. And we can pretty much put it out there to where it can pretty much go over the globe. So people from all over can see it, and seeing that, people could maybe change their opinions on the use of it. So.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Lauren, what thoughts do you have on it?
I definitely agree with what Gabe said. Like, we definitely need to, like, this needs to be more of like an outreach thing. I think locally the best thing to do is like not necessarily with the DARE, but I know in like years prior, the like law enforcement has come in for like a day or two, kind of depending on the year, and just brought in a bunch of like different things, and like the drunk goggles, and all of these things are great. But I feel like until you see it personally, like how it's affecting somebody else, like you can't fully comprehend anything. So I think like with health classes, they should go on like a field trip and kind of see like how these people are like living their lives now because of this. Because I think that's like kind of the only like eye opener there is, because you can hear about something 1,000 times and it won't affect you, but it'll affect you the first time you see it. So that's just kind of my thoughts.
That's excellent. Mr. Yates, I see you nodding your head. Is there any thoughts that you would interject into this? I'm gonna move my computer again really quick. You want to use yours, Lauren? That works perfect.
Sure. Like she was saying, I think she hit it on the head 100%. Actually, sorry. Actually seeing this stuff in real life was probably the most thing that hits home for them. The people that I've dealt with personally as a detective, you know, I've seen it from the ongoing problem to the, unfortunately, the end, the deaths. And seeing that what that leaves in the wake, that's just the thing that hits home for the most, I think. And the thing that is most lacked, I think, is resources for the people that are having the problems. Like she said, and Sheriff Lehman said, and Chief Shelton said, it is an ongoing local problem all over the country. It's a horrible, and I hope it gets to be better.
Robbie, do you have to investigate it when somebody overdoses and it's a fatality? Is that a police investigation some of the time?
Every single one of them.
And I would imagine people don't understand, because what kind of legal charges can exist? Have we had to prosecute anybody that maybe was a supplier? And Sheriff, I see you nod your head. I'd love to just have you interject your thoughts about maybe some of those experiences, because I think there's people don't understand that side of people.
Yeah, so just real briefly, we've had several investigations regarding overdose deaths, and I know Captain Yates has been involved and been very instrumental in a lot of those cases as well. We work collaboratively together. Anything that happens within the county or in the city, typically with an overdose death, our drug task force gets involved and assists with those investigations. And I don't think people understand how in depth those investigations can go. Social media right now is absolutely insane. And it drives a lot of our investigations, because a lot of these a lot of the information that we're able to extract comes from social media. So it takes warrants, which takes time. We can't just go into someone's phone and look at it freely. In some cases we can, but at the end of the day, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort on the investigator's part. Not to mention the internal struggles that we deal with, because a lot of times we know these individuals. We deal with them quite frequently. We develop relationships with them, and if people think that that we don't carry that too, then they're sadly mistaken. Speaking for myself, I've carried a lot of weight, and I know we all have, and it does have a pretty strong impact on us. So I just want you all to understand and know that this does affect us as well, and it's not just a me problem; it's a we problem.
Read it here. To anybody that's on the MRPC side, I'm looking at Krista, you guys, you're doing some great work. Rebecca, I know you have some more info. Rebecca, if you can hear me okay, if you mind taking maybe 2 minutes and telling everybody, how you got involved in this project.
Chief Shelton, would you mind muting your mic? It's hard to hear Sean. They're both talking. It's coming through both computers.
Yeah, I couldn't hardly hear you.
So how's it now?
It's good.
Okay. So Rebecca, do you mind taking just a couple minutes to share some thoughts, and as much or as little as you'd like to share?
Well, I am a recovering heroin addict. I have been clean for almost 7 years. I lost my children to the state of Missouri for 9 years. Not a picture, not a phone call, nothing. And they found me 3 years ago on Facebook. I have an active ongoing relationship with them. I decided to do something with my skills. Like, I was encouraged to use like my personality and my skills to build upon. And that's kind of where I landed working with people. Like, I'm a substance abuse counselor, but at MRPC, I'm on these projects and I give feedback kind of on behalf of someone who has been dope sick, who has lost their kids, who has been to prison, who I go into jails and teach classes, and I'm going to start working with youth. And that's just a little bit of my story. And I tried to get my kids involved and they're like, no.
Thank you. So Becky, while we've got our 4 students on here, you've got to listen to some of their thoughts. What would you say to them? They're right here. So what would you like to say to them?
I would like to say, don't lose hope. People do recover and people do get better. But make sure that you have boundaries in place to protect yourself from any emotional, mental, or physical harm that someone under the influence of opioids may cause you. So kind of put that little bit of a guard up, even though that's probably not the best advice. But it has to kind of be there in order, you guys know, you just kind of have to put it there so you don't get hurt as much.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for being here today. I'm seeing Gabriel nod his head. Gabriel, is there any thoughts that you've got that you want to add right now? No? Don't look at me, Dr. Stieberg. No. Krista, any thoughts that you talk about with the awareness walks, or your thoughts that you'd like to share on any of the insights that we've had today?
I want to commend the kids. Great job, because the more people talk about it, the better anyone who doesn't have to deal with it or has been affected by it firsthand can understand it. And understanding and substance use are not coexisting terms. You have to be willing to speak up, speak the truth, and just be honest. My daughter is in recovery, 3 years now. She overdosed in my home and I found her. And when Lauren was talking about when I'm shaking, I'm sorry.
You're great.
When they found the gentleman overdosed, that is an image that will never go away. And when I found my daughter laying on the floor, I thought she was dead. And it's something that you can never heal from. You'll never forget it. But I'm willing to talk about it because it might make a difference in someone else's life. And that's why I fight so hard for those who do use, because they don't have people to help them. They're most of the time on their own. Families disown them. So somebody has to be willing to step up for those people who are lost to drugs. And you kids doing that, that's amazing. And I commend you and I'm proud of you. And I thank you for doing that, because it can't just be the adults. The kids have to talk too. So I'm going to quit because I'm going to lose it.
Thank you. Thank you for being real. Thank you for being honest. Thanks for being on here with us. So I'm going to kick it back over to Lauren really fast, because I like to put Lauren on the spot. And, looking to kind of wrap this up, you've heard from, some other people on this. Is there any way that you feel, and this is kind of a silly question, maybe not, but, any way that you feel different from when you felt 45 minutes ago before you came into this room?
I mean, I definitely feel a little different from when we first started this, in even more from the 45 minutes ago, but when we first started this project, I definitely have learned so much that it's insane to just kind of see, and it's amazing to hear everybody's stories, and you don't really get to hear the law enforcement side, so it was very informative and really cool to get to see that side of it. But I definitely I've learned a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. Anna, what are your thoughts? You ready to go run 3 miles with me?
Don't know about that one. I'm a little out of shape. But I don't think that this is going, I believe that this is definitely helpful, but I think it should be taken further. And about the thing that Gabe said, about the YouTube video, that reminded me of how vape videos, how all those vape videos go out, and then about how vaping is bad, but that's not really going to stop anyone from doing it. I believe that there should be more of a support group there for the people, because I know that whenever I was on that stuff, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want anybody to know about it because it really is embarrassing. And it's something that you can just easily admit to. If someone asks you, you're not going to be honest about it because that's embarrassing. And I don't think people should be embarrassed of it. I think they should try and get help, because if I would have got help sooner, I would not have got the cops at my house. I would probably not have lost my mom. I would be way happier, and it definitely did change my life in a negative way. But where I am now, I want people to know that you're not alone, and drugs are not the last option. You need to have somebody there for you. The Krista, I think it was her story about her daughter. It made me feel like if my mom, my adopted mom, were to walk in on me like that, it's so upsetting to think about. And it's just really heartbreaking, because one time I walked in on my mom overdosing and I didn't even know what she was doing. I had no clue what to do. I didn't know what number to call the cops for. I was so young, and it's not even funny how many people die a year. I think it was 64,000 people have died this year just from opioids. And I believe that there should be more support groups rather than advertisements. And I mean, I'm not saying that us alone is just going to make everybody want to stop taking opioids. But if it makes one person stop and it saves one person's life, then that's okay with me.
So can you see my knuckles up here on the camera? So give me some COVID knuckles, man, right there. Boom, boom, boom. Nothing but love for you. And we appreciate your honesty and honor these people that are on this with me today. They're pretty awesome people. So if you want to ever talk to Krista or talk to Rebecca, Jane, who's here behind me, like they would talk to you. And so, because they all do pretty amazing things. And part of what Gabriel said and what you said and what Lauren said is that we don't want this to end today. And so there are people, that's why we're all here today, is that I consider this the first time that we have this conversation, not the last time that we have this conversation. So we've been taking down notes because there are things that we want to do, because it's the conversation is just step one, because you said it exactly. At the end of the day, we want people to stop misusing these substances. Like, that's the end goal. And so, this is, I see it, the first thing that we do, not the last thing that we do. So we appreciate you. Chief Shelton had a question for you. What was your question, Chief?
She mentioned if she would have gotten help sooner. What does that look like?
So
and what would she? I mean, when she says that, what would it look like to have expected help sooner, and from whom?
Can you hear him, Anna? So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, like, if I would have looked for help and if I would have got myself more friends in a support group, then I probably wouldn't overdose. I probably wouldn't have continued hurting my body with everything that I put in it. And it wasn't really just opioids in general. It was any pill that I could find around the house. I just didn't want to be there. And I wish I had somebody there for me, but I felt so alone and I thought it was my last option. And the goal was not to get high. The goal was to end it. And I'm going to be honest. But I'm glad that I got to where I am now. And I can assure you that I really don't advise anybody to use that, because it's not help. It hurts. It really does hurt. And it doesn't just hurt you, and it hurts your family and it hurts your friends that you think aren't there for you, but they really are, and they see it all.
You are stronger than what you give yourself credit for, because I didn't know it, but I kind of knew you at the time, and you did. I want you to know that, like, give me some more knuckles, because you did. You found the way out. You are right here giving us hope, because you did, and you are awesome, and we love you. So thanks for
There
sharing.
is a way out.
Amen. Gabriel, is there any thoughts that you want to interject? No, doing okay. Lauren, are you thinking anything else?
Honestly, for the first time in my life, I just want to sit and listen. Like, I don't have thoughts. I just want to sit and observe, because I like hearing stuff like that, because I feel like that's the most motivational, like, things. Because, like, I completely understand where I'm coming from. Like, I struggle with mental health and stuff too. So I understand that. And I think that's, like, the biggest thing and most important thing, especially when talking to the youth, because that's why a lot of, like, youth overdose or start drugs or alcohol or whatever they do, because they feel as though there's no escape or no, like, I don't know how to describe it, but, like, there's no end to the pain that's there.
You described it perfectly. So is there anybody on this conversation right now that just says, man, Sean, I'd really like to say something? And don't feel obligated, but if somebody had a burning thought or something that they wanted to interject, feel free.
Yeah, I just have a real quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
The question is for you again, so I'm not trying to pick on you, but I want to know from your perspective. You mentioned that you had some dealings with law enforcement, some officers at your home, and some incidents with your mom. What was your takeaway or your impression of the law enforcement officers when you had that interaction? Was it a positive experience or negative experience from the way that you were treated or the way that they handled or dealt with that situation?
So what happened whenever they came to my house, I was laying on my bed and I was crying, and my friend was the one that called the police for it because I told her that I was gone. I couldn't even see my phone screen barely. And it really was really painful. And it felt like my insides were burning. And whenever the cops showed up, like they knocked on my door and I didn't even know. I thought it was my mom knocking on my door and I couldn't really stand up. So my brother came and opened my door because I have like a little lock on my door. And the cops first asked me if I was doing anything to harm myself. And obviously, you're not really going to admit that you were abusing something to an authority. So, I mean, I should have been honest because I probably would have got help sooner, but I wasn't really honest. And I said I was okay, but I know that they could tell that I was out of it and that I was literally about to die. So I didn't go to the hospital, but that night I was like, I'm just gonna free myself from it. That was my breaking point when I decided that I wasn't gonna do it anymore. That was whenever I went and threw up the pills. That was the last time that I ever did it, and I wouldn't do it again. The experience, it made me realize that it's not worth it. It's not worth feeling more pain than you should be feeling. You just need help and you just need support and you need people to be there for you. And the experience that the cops gave me, they were actually really sweet, and they they thought that I was like hurting myself, like with like self-harm. And I didn't really hurt myself self-harm ways. I just took pills, and I was hoping that no one would even notice. But when I texted my friend that, it was a call. And so I called the first person on my list and I asked her for help. And so she lives in a different state, so she had to call the Cuba because she didn't even know like what town I lived in. She just knew I lived in Missouri, and she looked so hard to find where I was from, and it was scary. It really was. And my mom was in tears, and she was so confused when they showed up. They didn't even tell her what was going on. She didn't have a clue what was going on. And when she opened the door and I saw her crying, I didn't even know what to think from it. So that's the day that I stopped and I got some help and I got people to talk to.
Well, thank you for that. You're a brave and strong young lady, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Thank you so much.
Anna, I echo the sheriff, man. You're awesome. That took an unbelievable amount of courage, and just recognize it. I can go around everybody on the Zoom and say how much they care about you and how awesome you are. So you told me, you know, when the first time we talked about this, you said you want to save somebody's life, and I guarantee you today you have. Without doubt, I have zero doubt in my mind that some of the most emotionally powerful stuff that any of us have heard. So you're awesome. Keep being awesome, and we appreciate you, Lauren, Gabriel, Melena. You guys, I'll echo Krista. Like, this is awesome, and this is going to have an impact. And I thank you for your leadership and for your courage and your honesty. I didn't know what this conversation was going to look like when we started it, because this has never been done before. People have had community conversations, but they haven't had it where we said, youth, you get to lead the narrative. You get to be the experts. And so we didn't know what this was going to look like, but I can tell you that it's been an incredible experience, and we already have made an impact, and we are going to continue to make an impact. So it's been right at about an hour, so I need to wrap this up. But before I do, is there anything that anybody else wants to add before I conclude it? Jane, anything that you wanted to interject?
No, I just thank you all for sharing your stories. Yeah, and I think you're an inspiring group of young individuals. And so it gives me hope, and I think it gives everybody the impression that I get from the people on the call who aren't high school students. It gives us hope for the future. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to just iterate and say to everyone, thank you for your time. Thank you to the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission team. There are several of you that are on this. Thank you for today. Ryan from the Sullivan Independent News, thank you. If there's any follow-up, you can reach out to me or any of these individuals, and I'll help you with any correspondence that you need. Sheriff Lehman, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Cuba Police Department, Chief Shelton, Captain Yates, we thank you both for your time. To my students, man, thanks for changing the world. Thanks for having a positive impact. Lauren, you're looking at me through the camera. I want to see you in the face. All right. You guys are awesome. There are 7 other counties in this region that Jane and I have the opportunity to do this with. I will reach out to you on those other ones to see if we can be agent of change for other communities, other counties. With your permissions, and we have those, that, you know, we might be sharing some nuggets of thoughts that you have, because you are literally the first ones to do this. And so when we reach out to other counties and they say, help us to understand, we can now say, well, this is what the students at Cuba High School did. This was the honesty that they had. This was their leadership. This was the impact that they had in their community. They want to share this forward to you and your community so it can pay it forward and pay it forward. And I give you my word, I will reach out to all of you on that journey. This is a shared experience and not one that we're going to do by ourselves. So thank you, everybody. This has been wonderful, and I will be in touch with every single one of you. Oh, Sheriff, did you have a question? Awesome. Well, I'm going to end this because we're right at about an hour, and I'll give everybody a wave, give Anna some more knuckles for the final, and we'll be back in touch. Thanks, everybody.